guys, I'm Danielle and this is Bookchara and this is my December Advent Calendar Challenge. I got the inspiration for this video from Amy at A-Star Reads, who last year did a 12 Days of Christmas Advent Calendar Challenge, and I will link her video up in the cards. She's doing it again this year, slightly different, a new themed song. She even does some singing in her video this year, so I highly recommend you go check that out. So when I was looking for inspiration for my Advent Calendar Challenge, I came across the book The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus by L. Frank Baum, and I had never read this book. I read the ebook version and I loved it so much that I bought a physical copy. This is actually a 1983 edition, and I am going to hang on to this for forever. Anyway, if you have not read this story, it is kind of a fantasy Santa Claus retelling. I'm probably just gonna butcher this, but Santa Claus is found as a baby, raised by fairies and rills or riles, I don't know, it's R-Y-L-S, nooks, and all these other little magical forest creatures. And this just kind of gives a version of how he came to be a toy maker, how he came to have eternal life, and so on and so forth. I am taking the 10 reindeer from this book, and I am making a prompt for each of those reindeer. I'm gonna look at my notes. The reindeer are Glossy, Flossy, Racer, Pacer, Reckless, Speckless, Fearless, Peerless, Ready, and Steady. And so in the book, it didn't really give any in-depth description of each one of these reindeer and their personality. So I took their name, researched, came to like the closest definition I could of that name, and that inspired my prompts for this advent calendar. So for Glossy, I will be reading a book with a pretty cover. For Flossy, I will be reading a fluffy and or feel-good book. For Racer, I'll be reading a quick read. Pacer, I'll read a book that will require me to pace myself. This is probably going to be a chunky book. For Reckless, I will read an adventure or a book featuring a daredevil. For Speckless, I'll be reading a squeaky clean book. For Fearless, I will be reading a book featuring a hero or a book that takes courage to read. For Peerless, I'll be reading the best of the best, read a highly praised or award-winning book. For Ready, I'll be reading a book that I own, a book within my reach. And for Steady, I'll be reading a book that won't let me down or a book that I've committed to. So for each one of these prompts, I've chosen 3 books that could potentially fit that prompt. My little elf helper helped me earlier today. We drew 1 book for each of these prompts, and she put them in 10 of these drawers on my little advent calendar, which, by the way, I got this at Michael's for $7.50. So let's get on to the books. For Glossy, a book with a pretty cover, I will either be reading The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This is obviously not a beautiful cover. This mass market paperback edition I got is hideous, but I will include a picture of what the cover is supposed to look like. So it will either be this one, Dark and Deepest Red by Anna Marie McLemore, or Romanoff by Nadine Brandis. For Flossy, a fluffy feel-good book, the contenders are Holiday by Monica Murphy, Well Met by Jen DeLuca, and Wasted Words by Stacey Hart. For Racer, a quick read, I will either be reading Christmas in Love by Karen Thornell, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, or The Case for Christmas by Lee Strobel. For Pacer, a book that will require me to pace myself, I will either be reading Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb, The Toll by Neal Shusterman, or The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty. For Reckless, an adventure or a book featuring a daredevil, I will either be reading Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, or Hatchet by Gary Paulson. For Speckless, a squeaky clean book, I will either be reading A Love Unexpected by Leah Brunner, The Broken Road by Richard Paul Evans, or Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. For Fearless, a book featuring a hero or a book that takes courage to read, I will be reading either The Gray Scare by Kim Liggett, Turtles All the Way Down by John Green, or Necessary Lies by Diane Chamberlain. For Peerless, the best of the best, read a highly praised or award-winning book, I will either be reading Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier, Erin Morgenstern's The Night Circus, or The One and Only Ivan by Catherine Applegate. For Ready, a book that is within my reach, I will either be reading Power and Prestige by Sarah L. McConkey, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, or Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. And finally, for Steady, a book that won't let me down or a book that I've committed to, I will be reading either Stars Above by Marissa Meyer, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis, or Corinth 2642 AD by Bindia Schaefer. Okay, so for the rules and kind of what to expect, I will need to read one of these books beginning with the first challenge, and I will need to complete that book before I can move on to the next one. With the exception of Pacer, which is the chunky book, which I am going to actually reveal at the same time as I reveal book one, which would be Glossy. That way I can go ahead and pace myself with that one throughout the month. So ideally, I will be vlogging as I read and as I finish these books. So even though I didn't get really in-depth into describing them for this video, the books that are chosen, I will go more in-depth with, and you'll have my thoughts on them all throughout. This will be replacing my TBR game for December. So for those of you who look forward to my TBR game, don't be disappointed. It will be back, maybe even improved in January. So, and for those of you curious about the 3 books in my case file, I will reveal those during my November wrap up. Also, I wanted to say I do reserve the right to DNF any of these books if I'm just not enjoying them, and move on to the next one. The whole point of this Advent Calendar Challenge is to kind of just give me a breather from my regular TBR game, have something fun to do in December. This is meant to be enjoyable, so I want to keep it that way. So I think that's that for the rules and what to expect. I am going to go ahead and reveal book one, and which will be my glossy book with a pretty cover book, and also my pacer book, which will be the chunky book. Okay, so let's see if I can do this without spilling the drawers. Okay, this is drawer number 1, and pacer should be 2, 3, 4. I meant to Cricut like vinyl cut some little numbers for my drawers, but that may have to be a goal for next year because that just wasn't going to happen in a timely fashion. So in the meantime, we're counting the drawers. Okay, so for book 1, which is Glossy, a book with a pretty cover. Oh, that worked out way too perfectly for me. I drew The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. And I say perfectly for me because that was a planned buddy read for December, so yay. And oh man, I am gonna have a good reading month. So for pacer, I drew Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. So that's what we have to look forward to right away. I will see you guys very soon with an update. Be watching for my November wrap up. I'd love to know in the comments, what are your reading plans for December? Also, if you want to adopt these prompts and do this with me, feel free. Yes, if you take on these prompts and you decide to make a video or something of that nature, or take a picture of your TBR, whatever, just let me know you did it, because I'd love to support you in that way. Are there any books, potential books in these drawers that you're rooting for? I would also love to hear that. So that's all for now, guys. I will see you very soon with another video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will talk to you later. Bye.